Mr. Chairman, this amendment would remove the path to citizenship that is contained in the Gang of Eight bill. We are a nation of immigrants. Every one of us around this table are the children of those who came here seeking freedom. And we are also a nation of rule of law. And in addressing immigration, I believe we need to respect both legacies. Our immigration system right now is broken, and there is an overwhelming consensus across this country, a bipartisan consensus, that we need to fix the broken immigration system. We need to fix the underlying problem and not simply kick the can down the road, not simply ensure that the problems we have today will recur later down the road and be even worse. In my view, for immigration reform to pass and to credibly fix the problem, it needs three elements to be added to the current bill. First of all, it needs border security, real teeth in border security, and I regret that the committee rejected a number of amendments that would have put real teeth in the border security. Secondly, I believe we should expand legal immigration, reduce the barriers, reduce the waiting periods, and I've introduced two amendments to significantly expand legal immigration, to double the caps on legal immigration from 675,000 to 1.3 million, and to increase temporary high-skilled workers by 500%. But third, I believe for this legislation to solve the problem, there should not be a pathway to citizenship for those who are here illegally. If there is a pathway to citizenship, in my judgment, that is, number one, inconsistent with the rule of law. Number two, it's unfair to the millions of legal immigrants who have followed the rules, who have waited in line years and sometimes decades to come. And number three, I believe if a pathway to citizenship is included in legislation that Congress passes, that it will serve only to encourage yet more illegal immigration. It will not solve the problem. Indeed, if legislation that includes a pathway to citizenship passes like it did in 1986, I have little doubt that in 10 or 20 years we will be back here, instead of having 11 million people here illegally, we'll be back here with 20 or 30, because a pathway to citizenship will only encourage others to violate the law. Our broken immigration system creates human tragedies. Mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters who lose their lives in the desert, who are preyed upon by coyotes, who are subject to sexual trafficking, to victimization, and no humane system would encourage a perpetuation of the status quo. In my view, we need a solution that respects the rule of law and that ensures that there are real and meaningful consequences for violating the immigration laws. And I'd like to make a final point to those advocacy groups that are very engaged in this issue and rightly concerned about addressing our immigration system, and in particular about addressing the situation for the 11 million who are currently in the shadows. If this amendment is adopted to the current bill, the effect would be that those 11 million under this current bill would still be eligible for RPI status. They would still be eligible for legal status, and indeed under the terms of the bill they would be eligible for LPR status as well, so that they are out of the shadows, which the proponents of this bill repeatedly point to as their principal objective, to provide a legal status for those who are here illegally to be out of the shadows. This amendment would allow that to happen. But what it would do is remove the pathway to citizenship so that there are real consequences that respect the rule of law and that treat legal immigrants with the fairness and respect they deserve. And a second point to those advocacy groups that are so passionately engaged. In my view, if this committee rejects this amendment, and I think everyone here views it as quite likely this committee will choose to reject this amendment. In my view, that decision will make it much, much more likely that this entire bill will fail in the House of Representatives. I don't want immigration reform to fail. I want immigration reform to pass. And so I would urge people of good faith on both sides of the aisle, if the objective is to pass common sense immigration reform that secures the borders, that improves legal immigration, and that allows those who are here illegally to come in out of the shadows, then we should look for areas of bipartisan agreement and compromise to come together. And this amendment, I believe, if this amendment were to pass, the chances of this bill passing into law would increase dramatically. And so I would urge the committee to give it full consideration and to adopt the amendment.